Back at it today. We took yesterday off practice, had the whole team back on Monday for the first time in some time. It felt like the start of the year again. And so we're back at it today. Important prep time because we'll play 3 games in 5 days then. So this is not only prep for Boise, it's prepping ourselves for the next 3 games over 5 days and looking forward to that challenge. Everybody's going through it. Boise will play us at the end of a tough stretch. So everybody's making up games right now. We're one of many that are doing it, and we'll be ready for that challenge.
Great. We'll go to Lee.
Hey, Brian, thanks for doing this. I got a couple of COVID questions. When you guys shut down, how many players, staff, and coaches had tested positive or in close contact? How bad were your numbers?
I think we might have had 7 over 2 days. So I think we're not atypical of what's going on in the country with the Omicron. It's affecting everybody. It's very contagious, and, we're dealing with it. And hopefully we're on the backside of it.
Did you test positive?
No, not yet. Knock on wood, Lee. Thank you. I've stayed healthy, and I'm in the timeouts. I'm right with them, but, I'm vaxxed, I'm boosted, and I've been really good. So hopefully that will continue.
Is your entire team boosted, or how is that?
We're going through that process. Obviously, those that have just had it, we're trying to find a timeline for them to finish up and get boosted. So obviously the university is mandating it. We're encouraging it, and hopefully that will happen as soon as it's safe for everybody to do so.
And the fact that you've been away from being on the court and actually doing all the heavy-duty regimented practices, is there a conditioning factor that kind of kicks in, at least for the Boise State game?
Yeah, we're under a return-to-play protocol, Lee, and so if guys were symptomatic and it affected them, then they're on a 45-minute limit to start and then build from there. So even though we're all back, we're on some limits depending on who had it when and how they responded to it. So everybody's a little different, like most people that get it, and so we're taking great care to make sure that they are healthy and ready to go when we put them back on the floor.
And a final question for me. You look at what's happened around the conference, and these teams are having really good seasons, even though everybody, for the most part, has been interrupted. Are you surprised conference-wise are this many good teams, this good players, or is it too early to make that judgment?
I think there are a lot of good teams, and I'm starting to watch more of them, obviously, now that we're to the conference. But Wyoming coming off pause and winning back-to-back road games. Boise on a 10-game winning streak right now. Colorado State, we know how good they are. They're ranked and only have 1 loss. And that's just to mention a few. Justin's done a good job at Fresno. They're playing good basketball. So this is a competitive conference, and we will be challenged every time we take the floor.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Lee. We'll go to Austin.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you back. You talked about just how important this week is for preparation. I just kind of want to dive a little deeper. What does preparation look like when you have UNLV, then Utah State coming up after? Do you work on all 3 this week, or are you going to focus on Boise first?
Well, obviously, all our attention defensively is toward Boise. And then offensively, it's just about trying to get our timing back. Now we finally have everybody available. And so now we'll see what kind of team we're going to be. Just fixing ourselves, first and foremost. So we will work on a lot this next couple of days, try to get ourselves where we feel like our timing's back, and that will be the challenge. We won't know that until we step on the floor, but we know Boise's going to be a tremendous challenge. 2 games last year. The first one went to overtime. Second one was a 1-possession game with under a minute to go. So we know what kind of challenge that's going to be, and so we're looking forward to that Saturday against a very good Boise team.
And then for the 7 players and coaches who tested positive for COVID, what did their last 2 weeks look like? Did they watch film at all, or do you think they were just quarantined?
Just quarantine. We didn't do anything. Didn't do any Zoom film. 5-day quarantine, test negative, come back and start the progression to play. So, and that's everyone's dealing with it. So, I think we're probably the last team in the conference to shut down. I I don't know that for a fact, but a lot of teams in our conference have shut down, and we were kind of the last one to go through that.
Great. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Austin. We'll go to Mark.
Coach, you mentioned that you were the last team in the conference to shut down. Everyone has kind of already been through it. Are there any lessons that you can glean from how other teams have come back after a layoff, or any advice that other coaches have given you?
Well, if it's good advice, they're not going to give me any. They don't want to help the Aztecs, so we'll practice hard. I mean, you got to get timing in practice, and so we'll ease in today. We'll probably go pretty hard tomorrow, and then lighten up the day before the game. So next couple of days, we'll see where our timing is. We'll try to play more short segments and see where we're at and make adjustments from there.
Have you got any further idea from the conference about what the rest of your schedule will look like?
Well, obviously, we know Vegas is here. The first makeup game. I think we have more games in makeup than anybody in the conference, and so it'll be a challenge for them to put our schedule together. And maybe it's because we were the last ones to get it. We've had the most games postponed. So one is rescheduled. We still have 4 more that they may or may not try to make up all of them for us. I don't think they want us making up games after the regular season or anything leading in the conference tournament to try to wear us down. But in all likelihood, we could be really back-ended, loaded with road games, maybe 4 out of 5 to end the season. And that's a concern, obviously, leading into the end of our season in the conference tournament.
Do you want to play all the games that you missed, or does there become a point where you just say, look, this is going to be too much of a killer schedule and too fatiguing and too much injury risk for players? How do you balance that?
Well, obviously, we have great depth, so we're probably built to play multiple games. But at the same time, I think, like last year, Mark, the conference has to look at not reschedule them all this week, see how it goes week to week, and then make the best decision to get multiple teams into the NCAA tournament. So maybe that means making up a game. Maybe that means we don't make up a game at the end because every team is in good position to make it, and let's not put the top of the league at jeopardy. So that's something the conference is going to have to weigh, but something I would encourage. Let's look at it as we get down the road and see where everyone stands. And if we have a bunch of teams that look like they're in the tournament, let's be careful how we schedule down the stretch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We'll go to John.
Coach, do you feel fortunate that it was 2 weeks as opposed to longer than that? Because there have been some teams that have missed maybe a month of time because of a COVID pause.
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the teams, obviously, that have decided to play with the conference rules. If we had 7 healthy bodies, we played. So we know we played Vegas the first time without Trey and Lamont. We knew we played Colorado State without Josh Tomajic and Adam Seiko. So we've been willing to play shorthanded. And now we're at full strength. So we'll see that all these teams that in our conference that have been on pause, if they're testing, there's a chance they could go pause again if they haven't all gone through that process. So I don't think it's over. I'm hoping it is, but we could actually have more pauses as this goes on.
I apologize if I missed this earlier, but is it at all beneficial for Lamont to have the time? I mean, it's probably a fine line. He was obviously coming back from the wrist. You need him to play, but could the couple of weeks of time get him closer to being 100%?
Yeah, that might be a silver lining. Hopefully that gives the wrist more time to heal, where he's not taking contact and not running the risk of hurting it again. And maybe this extra time will help him down the stretch.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, John. We'll go to Brandon Stone.
Greetings, Coach. Good to see you. I'm just wondering how, as you've gone through these last couple of weeks and had to live the life that you've had to live, how it's affected your thoughts, feelings, emotions on the COVID process that the NCAA has, or the COVID process that your fans are going through, how this has changed you.
Well, this is the 3rd year of dealing with it. Obviously, our 30-2 year came to an end. We dealt with it all last year. No fans in the stands. Made it through a season without a positive test for anybody. And now this year, obviously, more contagious, more interaction, school back in session, and it's affected us. And so I think we've dealt with everything that's come our way the right way. We follow protocol. We've followed the rules, and we've stayed positive and tried to just say everyone in the country's dealing with it. It's our turn now, and now let's move on from it.
I know that getting into your building, I know you deal with what's on the court, but getting into your building is going to be a little more complicated here in these next couple weeks. Any message to fans who may feel that it's getting a little too complicated for them to either just hold on and work through it like you guys had to work through it?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, obviously, you have to be boosted to be in. You have to show a negative test if you're not boosted, and it's the world we're living in. We're wearing masks indoors, and sometimes we're not wearing masks. And if you come to a game, half the people are mad they have masks on, and half the people are mad others don't. So you're not going to please everybody. We're all dealing with frustration through COVID, and I want to thank our fans for being there for us, having to go through this to support their Aztecs, and we're grateful that they're in the stands and helping us to victory.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you, Brandon. We'll go to Darnay.
Hey, Dutch. I hope you're well. Forgive me if I missed this. Have you guys, or will you test at some point? What's the schedule look like this?
I'm not sure what our testing will be right now. I mean, obviously, most of the team is on the other side of it. So is that 90 days at this point of not testing once you've had it? And it all depends on the timeline. Some guys will fall in within the 90 days as the season goes on. And obviously, we'll follow whatever county, state regulations there are, campus regulations to keep everybody safe and moving in the right direction.
And is there any comfort in just having a couple home games on the other side of this? I know there's always a little bit more nerves and uncertainty when you go on the road. Is it nice just to be able to stay home for a little bit?
Yeah, obviously, we've been very good at home, so hopefully we'll take advantage of that being at home again. But at some point, we're going to go on the road, and we're going to face some really tough competition, and hopefully we will be up for that challenge as well.
And I want to ask you about the competition within the Mountain West. What have you seen? I mean, if you look at Ken Pom to net, I mean, there's a lot more love kind of given to Mountain West teams in the top, 70 or so. What have you seen from the group, and what can that help you, or how can that help you going forward, obviously, toward the tournament?
Obviously, you can build your resume within the conference, and sometimes that doesn't happen. But this is a year it can, whether you're playing Wyoming or Colorado State or Boise, all the teams that are climbing in the net, those are all chances to build your resume. And so if you happen to lose to one of those teams, it's not a bad loss. So the conference is strong right now, and hopefully we can all take advantage of that and be a multi-bid league when the season ends.